there.
I'm a fan.
Alright, well, it is 9 o'clock. You want to get started?
Sounds wonderful. It is episode 62, correct?
That's the notes you gave me.
Yeah. Stop your clicking, Andrew. Okay, so good evening and welcome to CanHammer, your stop for the GW hobby from the Great White North. Today's show is episode 62. It's an AOS and 40k combo show all about the Capital City Bloodbath, which is a tournament that we run in Ottawa, Ontario. For people that have never tuned in before, we always give the game topic before the show. So I said GW hobby this time, which is the first time I ever said that, so it felt really weird. But that's just because this is a combo AOS and 40k show. Normally we'll just say, oh, this is an AOS show, and then if you want to click out, you can, or a 40k show, or War Machine, which we haven't done yet, and a whole bunch of other games which we've never done but have thought about doing. So that's that. So if you're a new listener, welcome to the show. As usual, I am Chris Haynes. I am the host. I am at CanHammer Chris on Twitter, and I am joined today from Ottawa by Mr.
Logan McLaren.
And what's your Twitter handle?
Oh, at OnePlus Logan.
And also joining us from Ottawa is
Andrew. At OnePlus Andrew.
Sounds good. So this is the first time we are doing something new. We are streaming on the OnePlus Armor YouTube channel. So it's like a YouTube channel, but we're on their Twitch feed. If this goes well, we're thinking about doing more of these, because when we record, it might be nice to have people interact and do some Q&A and stuff like that. We're also hoping, if this goes well, to set up a CanHammer feed. That way you can subscribe to either us and OnePlus. And then we can basically stream them to both feeds. So if there's one that we're doing this maybe inappropriate for the OnePlus channel, we can just do it on the side CanHammer channel, which it's probably the other way around.
Yeah. Probably safer
awesome.
that way.
So the one thing that I want to, because this is the first time we're doing this, is the Twitch feed will include like some behind the scenes stuff. Like we might have to take the odd break. We're going to have to stop and record and maybe even redo the odd segment, just because, you know, that's the life of a podcaster. Sometimes things don't come out right and you just redo them. So there will be a little bit more rawness. There won't be any music this time. We'll play with that in the future, maybe adding it to the live, adding in some clips and stuff like that. But if you want to get this podcast, you can always get it on iTunes, and that'll be the polished, edited version with music. And I say polished with air quotes, but it'll be a little bit like more of a professional show, whereas this is more of a, you know, you can chat in, you can send questions, and interact with us a little bit. It should be kind of neat, and you know, maybe we won't live stream every show, but we would like to do it a bit more, as that's the way that the future of the internet's going. So I guess we're going to move on to the hobby. So Logan's going to tell you about the 1K challenge that starts tomorrow.
Sure. So, I need to double check the date with you, because the Facebook page actually says it started on the 7th. But the idea behind this is it's sort of the yearly painting challenge that CanHammer's been doing for a while. We're getting started a little late this year, it seems. But the goal is before January 1st of 2016 to paint 1,000 points of models from either new on sprue or at the bare minimum primed, and that's it. So, Chris, what are you working on for that challenge?
Well, I'll be done in probably about a week and a half, and that'll be my Eldar army. But I'm actually doing Eldar and Stormcast Eternals for that challenge, and I'll be putting the pics up on the Facebook page. Sorry. And I want to say it wasn't a CanHammer thing. It was actually started by Ricky, who's unaffiliated.
Okay.
He just randomly did it, and then I just added you guys in and tried to get more people in.
All right, very cool.
So I guess that'll get right into what I'm doing in the hobby. I'm working on Eldar. So this painting challenge started. Going to War Masters. I have 1,000 points to paint and build. So I ordered, and so I had this like Eldar list, and I was like, this is not working for me. It's so 6th edition. It's all Wave Serpents, Dire Avengers. It's just like, it's not effective anymore. Like, it's still good, don't get me wrong, it's still good, but it's just not what you want to bring to a tournament anymore. So I went out and I bought 18 Eldar jet bikes, so I've been working on assembling them. I also bought 10 Dark Reapers, because I rate them with the twin link against flyers and stuff like that, and they can, you know, ignore Jink. And so at CCBB, spoiler right now a little bit, there was a ton of Ravenwing doing really well. So I'm like, if I can ignore Jink and take these units, and I did the math on it, and 4 Dark Reapers with 1 Exarch, like, I forget the exact number, but it like almost guarantees you 3 dead Ravenwing bikes. So, and they also have slow and purposeful, so you can reserve them, come in, no problem, take them out. And then I'm working on some Swooping Hawks as well. So that's kind of, I've been building this stuff, getting it ready to prime, and then I'm going to speed paint it this week. So that's what I've been doing in the hobby. What have you been doing, Logan?
I have been playing catch up on the thousands of points of unassembled and unpainted demons I have sitting on my shelf, thanks to End Times of Warhammer and just various stuff I've picked up from tournaments and raffles and whatnot. So, been working on a couple Demon Princes, some Plague Drones, Screamers, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and so you were getting those ready for a tournament, right?
Yeah, it was partially for a tournament this past weekend, just a little RTT here in Ottawa, 1,500 points, nothing too crazy. So
Single CAD. Did you do well?
I got best general.
Wow.
Out of 6 people that showed up, and the only person that beat me was best overall and the TO.
Awesome. That's awesome. The TO should have won. That was Will, right?
Yeah,
I don't know why
he got second actually. So, but I had a good time. So can never complain about playing Warhammer for a day. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, so like most recently, I've been we're getting ready for Capital City Bloodbath. So I was working on some last minute terrain for that, and I recently got into War Machine, so I've been working on my new army for that game. Getting ready for a league that's happening here in Ottawa, just like an escalation league type thing. And
the army before you move on.
It's an army called the Convergence of Cyrus. So they're all like sort of Art Deco robots. The whole army's made up of sort of mechanical constructs. They don't have very many like actual living people in the army, so it's kind of cool. And then Nick and I just picked up a painting commission, so I've been starting to get some things done with that.
Yeah, and so you did 240K tables for Capital City?
Yeah, I did 240K and did like sort of just a couple little extra pieces for the Age of Sigmar tables, because Age of Sigmar is better with more terrain. It's kind of like 40K now, whereas before it was you'd want sort of a lot of open areas in fantasy. Now our old fantasy tables were a little too bare for AOS, so I did a couple things to spruce them up a bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That it's much better aesthetically and game-wise with tons of terrain. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. You almost need like line of sight blockers in Age of Sigmar now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and like there's lots of combos where it's like, you know, I'm playing that Wood Elf guy, he's got tons of shooting. Oh my god, what do I do? Oh, I just put my guys in a forest, buff their save by 1, and now you can't hurt me, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of units with shields, they get a reroll 1 for saves. It's quite easy to get them down to 2+, so it's pretty solid. What else have you been doing?
That's basically it. Like, I'm getting married in 3 weeks now, so a lot of my free time's been going to planning for that.
Ooh. you're gonna bite that bullet. Okay.
Chris says this as a happily married man, of course.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I guess I forgot to notice. Yeah, I did a bunch of terrain for Capital City as well. So one thing that you need in 40K is line of sight blocker. So I sucked it up and I did a whole bunch of big pieces that'll block total line of sight, basically, like big buildings in the middle of the board. And you know, that's something you need now, right? So a lot of tournaments you go to, you can tell they're out of date because they just don't have the LOS blocking terrain. And we're not quite 100% there, but we're getting there. So that's pretty good. Okay, so I guess we'll move along to the news. And so I have a nice little CBC tune for this in the real podcast. But the first thing in the news that I want to talk about is the Khorne fortress called the Chaos Dreadhold. Now this thing is anywhere from $100, which I think is like 1 tower, to $1,400 Canadian. The rules are not free, so I don't even know what it does. I'm sure I could have found them for free online, like through like a not legal area. But there's a hardcover book that goes with it. It's like, I think it's like $50, or it's like the full price of a hardcover book, and it's just how you play with this one terrain piece. And like, it sucks because I look at it and I'm like, it's cool. It's like a Khorne fort covered in skulls. I'm like, this is cool. I would love to have this on a table. And I was like, I want to order this. And I click and I'm like, oh shit, that's $1,400. I want it. $1,400. I want it 1400, and yeah, I couldn't do it. So what do you guys think of this? This is like gold-plated fort.
So there's one thing I have to say about this, and it's an onomatopoeia, and people on the stream will know exactly what this sound is.
Yeah, faceplant.
Facepalm.
Facepalm, sorry.
Yeah, the price is... Okay, so don't get me wrong. The buildings are absolutely gorgeous, and apparently the kits are fantastic. But who in their right mind, apart from, I think one of the Australian podcasts picked this up, who's going to pay this much? Like, you compare this to anything. Like, I can get every piece of Dwarven Forge in existence, which is the same level of quality, works for every game, and it looks just as good. And that's their entire product line for the price of this one castle. I don't get the pricing, but, I mean, the thing is, with all this stuff, is if you price something exorbitantly, you do it specifically because somebody out there will purchase it. So you know you're going to get your money when you do these. There's a term for it in the gaming industry. I can't remember what it is. But it's the same thing with all the microtransaction games and everything. You have that one thing where your microtransactions are like $1 or $2, and you have one at $100 because someone will buy it. So I'm sure they didn't do a huge run of these, and they know that people are going to buy it, but it's not going to be a high volume item, I don't think. But it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, that's the part that ruins me. Is like I looked at, I actually want it like badly, and I'm like, I can't because, like, it's not about a matter of like I'm sure you can buy anything nowadays. It's just a matter like with credit and all that crap. But it's just a matter of like, that's like a whole 4 armies almost.
Yep.
Like I could literally be like, well, I want an army in Drop Zone, War Machine, Batman, Malifaux, 40k, and Fantasy for $1,400. Sorry, Fantasy, I meant AOS. You can't maybe do all of them, but you can come pretty damn close. So
I bet you could do all of them for $1,400.
yeah,
Especially if you go used or. But, yeah,
I mean, I think it's more geared towards like hobby stores and stuff. So maybe they'll be able to get it at a discount or be like a cool piece of terrain to show off in their store. But for like just like a guy for his basement setup, that's kind of a ridiculous price. Like, you can buy a used car for less than that.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic showpiece for GW stores or hobby stores, as you said, Andrew. You know, you come in, you see that thing on the table, and immediately you're like, oh shit, Age of Sigmar looks like the coolest thing ever. I want to play this game.
Yeah,
and then you don't keep it on the shelves right there so they don't see the price tag. But
yeah, right on. So I guess we'll move on.
Yeah.
Because we could probably talk about that a bit longer. And like, I'm smiling right now through this whole conversation, but I'm actually gutted that I don't want to afford it. You know.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the next one, and this would be the Exalted Deathbringer of Khorne. He came out, and so we have Andrew on there telling you his rules, but I don't think he got the show notes yet. Did you?
I did. I had some problems opening the link, but I found it in Google here, so I can go over it right quick.
Okay, so you have the Exalted Deathbringer.
Yeah. So he's a new Khorne guy. He looks like he's a hero. His keywords are Chaos, Mortal, Khorne, Hero, and Exalted Deathbringer. So, just like a quick glance, he seems alright. He's got Movement 5, 4+ save, 8-inch recovery, and 5 wounds. He has 2 weapons. Let's see if I can zoom in with this picture. Sorry. The Ruinous Axe has a range of 1 with 3 attacks. Hits on a 4, wounds on a 3. Has rend and has damage 2, so that's kind of cool, I guess. And then he has the Bloodbite Axe. So again, 1-inch range, 6 attacks. Holy crap! Hits on a 3, wounds on a 4, so a little less. Rend 1 and only does 1 damage.
Yeah, they're pretty even, but like the one thing is, I always like things that hit better than wound better. I don't know why. It always feels like they do more because, you know, 6 attacks hitting on 3s, that's 4 hits, and then if it wounds on a 4, that's 2 wounds. Whereas the other way, like, you're doing less wounds, but it hits a bit harder. Does he have any special rules, Andrew?
Yeah, but the pick I have sort of blurs them all out when I zoom in. If you guys have a better... Sorry.
So you don't... The one thing that you're missing out on, which we're going to talk about just for a quick second while I pull this up, is you're missing the Age of Sigmar app, because it's awesome. It has all the source rules in it. You can sort through them all, and he's right in there, and we meant to get you on there, but I can just click on him. So if you're on the stream, let me see it. I got it come up right on my app. Easy peasy. So we'll go to his special rules. His abilities: Blood Lieutenant. This model makes 2 additional attacks while he's within 12 inches of a Khorne general. That's awesome. You put him in, keep him close to your general. It's kind of like a bodyguard. 2 extra attacks, especially hitting on 3s, winning on 4s. That's crazy. If an Exalted Deathbringer carries a rune shield, suffers any wounds or mortal wounds as a result of a spell, you basically get a 2+ save against them. Soul Gouger. Each time you make a save roll of a 6 in the combat phase for the Exalted Deathbringer with the Skull Gouger, he turns aside the attack and delivers a brutal counter blow, inflicting D3 mortal wounds on the attacking unit. Yes. And then he has a command ability, which is Brutal Command. If this model is your general and uses this ability, all Khorne units from your army within 12 inches, mortal Khorne units, get their get to use his bravery characteristic instead of their own. If there's a unit from your army within 1 inch of this model when it uses this ability, you can inflict D3 mortal wounds on that unit. If you do so, this ability's range is increased to 24 inches. Yes! So if he's in combat, use that ability, boom, you got this huge bubble. It's awesome.
Pretty cool.
I actually really like this guy. He's I think one of the only, besides like them re-releasing those Khorne Bloodbound like kits that already came out, he's basically like their only new character that's not in the starter set. And I think if you're playing that Khorne army, he's a 1+ buy. You just put him in. He goes really well with, especially because a lot of the other the one banner guy, I forget his title right now. My brother picked he's working on getting that army ready so I can test it out against him. But that guy boosts all the attacks within a certain range. So you put this guy in, he's within your general, then you put the banner bearer, he plants his banner, and boom, this guy's like now just a machine. So that's pretty cool. So we'll move on. The next new guy that came out, Logan?
Yeah, so the next one we've got the Celestant Prime. And this dude is a beast. His rules are crazy. So this is one of the few things I've seen so far that explicitly says you can only have one of him, which is probably good. Because here's how he works. He's got a 12-inch move with fly. He has 8 wounds, a 3+ save, and bravery 10. He's got 2 weapons. His missile weapon is the Comet Strike Scepter with Galmaraz, which is 24-inch range, which we'll take a look at, and is the same as his melee weapon. Sorry. So he's got that. And then for his melee weapon, he's got Galmaraz, which is a hammer. 2-inch range, 2 attacks, so not too many so far. Hits on 3s, wounds on 2s, -3 rend, and does 3 damage. So just the stat line alone is pretty awesome, considering, I mean, it's 8 wounds, and in our comp at least, or as our comp or whatever, that counts for some, not a huge amount.
But it's not that many, really. Like
it's not that many. You can pick them
You
up.
look at them and you think 8 wounds. That's like Warhammer 8th Edition level of wounds.
Yeah, it is. But the thing is, you can pretty easily buff this guy to a 1+ save. You get 2 wizards out there. But this is where he gets really fun. So his missile weapon, the Comet Strike Scepter, calls down a comet from the heavens. During the shooting phase, you pick any point within 24 inches of him and roll a die. Any unit within the die's range of that designated point takes D3 mortal wounds.
Yes.
So you plop that down the middle of a unit, you could have a 6-inch, or I guess a 12-inch blast, basically, that's doing D3 wounds, theoretically. So it's a good character sniper. It's great for picking off weak units. Nothing bad about that. So he also deep strikes effectively. He's got a rule called Retribution from on high. He doesn't start on the table. Instead, he is in the celestial realm, drawing additional power into his mace Galmaraz. Each round, you just choose whether or not he's going to come in the movement phase. But for each round that he stays out, he gets 2 extra base attacks. So if you bring him in on turn 2, he's got 4 attacks. Turn 3, he's got 6 attacks. It just gets nuts. Yep. And then when he comes on, you just have to place him 9 inches outside of any other model, anywhere on the board. And that's his move. And then every enemy model within 12 inches loses 2 bravery until the next hero phase.
Yeah, and if you get lucky enough to roll that 9 charge, boom, you just kill the unit.
Deep strike with no scatter, and of course there's no penalty for failing a charge. So, pretty good.
What's a 9 charge odds?
9...
Is that like in the 40 range, 30 range?
Yeah, it'd be high 30s probably.
Yes, that's not terrible for something that's free.
And you've got nothing to lose by doing it. And then here's the best part about that 9-inch charge range. His last rule, the Orrery of Celestial Fates. Mystical energies swirl around his feet, granting him insights and aid in battle. Once per turn, you may change one die roll of your choice for the Celestin Prime before modifiers.
Yes, 5, a 3, and a 1. That one's a 6.
You've made your
Done.
charge.
Love
Yeah.
it.
So pretty beefy dude. The model's awesome. It's maybe a little over the top, I think, but it's beautifully done. It's also quite big, I think. I want to say it's 3 inches tall, something like that. It's a pretty big
I
one.
think it's like Nagash height. He's the only, at this point in time, he's the only Stormcast model I haven't ordered, because it's just a matter. I have too much other stuff going on to justify ordering him right now. I'm gonna wait, but I've seen just in case like something better comes out, so I don't. He's like I don't want to order him. He sits in a box for a month. But I've seen so many wicked paint jobs with people doing like the space scene on his base and all the way up, like because he's floating on this like planetary. It's really cool, and a lot of painters are like doing this guy's a nice centerpiece, and I think. When you look at a Stormcast Eternal Army, they all look kind of bland and the same, and this guy pops up and basically gives you that, like, something to draw the people in. To
Give some flavor to it past the hordes of samey Sigmarines.
Cool, and then you know about some 40k rumors?
Yeah, so we'll just touch on this quickly. There's nothing super concrete about this, but I know, Chris, you and I can have a quick back and forth on this, and Andrew, you may have some thoughts as well. 40k, of course, the releases beginning of this year were fast and furious, and since Age of Sigmar came out, the releases have been non-existent, which is great because the tournament meta is finally catching up on this stuff, and people's wallets are slightly recovering as well, except for the folks who are into Age of Sigmar as well. But apparently, coming up later this year, there's going to be 2 new codices, at least, for Tau and Chaos Space Marines.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it isn't. There are very few rumors about this, other than the fact that these are coming. So it's not clear if it's going to be another one of the Demonkin books, which would be cool, especially if it's Nurgle. I won't complain about that. Or anything that's going to be in the Tau book, because I think most people think they just need minor revisions. So hopefully it's going to be like a Space Marine kind of release, where it's here, have this cool new stuff, but everything else pretty much stays the same. Mm-hmm. But just really quickly, so we can chat about it. Let's talk Chaos. Chris, what would you like to see in a new Chaos book?
If it's a new codex, I would like to see like the basic Marines better. Like cultists are what they are; they're perfect. Helldrake, I do believe, is perfect. Spawn, for what they are great. Mauler Fiends are great. It's just some of the other stuff, like the Terminators need fixing or need a Terminator-like replacement, kind of like the Centurions. Yeah. A lot of the characters, especially special characters, need to come down in points cost. And they need some form of like flying transporter drop pod. Yeah, I think drop pods are like number 1 on my list of things. And any sort of, even like an open topped transport, because assault, this is something that we'll chat about with Bloodbath later on. But the thing people have been saying about 40k for a long time now is it's a shooting game, right? People have been saying that since I think like 4th edition, 5th edition. The 5th had Rhino rushing and whatnot, but especially 6th onwards, it's been, hey, 40k is a shooting game. Why'd you bring close combat army? Well, if you look at what's in the meta right now, you've got Space Wolves, Ravenwing, Demons. These guys, well, Demons kind of shoot. They have magic or psychic powers, but like the Ravenwing and Space Wolf stars, they're all about getting in your face, and Demonkin, in your face turn 2, kill your whole army, and go grab objectives. So I think it would be really great, because Chaos right now is okay at combat. It's really bad at shooting. It's terrible at psychic powers. Like a great example is at Nova, there was a player in top 8 went undefeated, I think, for however many rounds it was, with Chaos Space Marines primary. So I was talking to the guy and I was saying, what's your trick for doing so well with Chaos Space Marines? And he said the trick to winning with Chaos Space Marines is to take as few models from the Chaos Space Marine Codex as possible. Yeah, just use your Warlord, which is like Be'lakor, and like a unit of cultists as your primary. It was Be'lakor, 2 cultists, and I think that was it. Yeah, and not even a Helldrake. I think there was a Helldrake in it, or 2 Helldrakes or something. Yeah, it was 2 Helldrakes because you wanted to deal with scatterbikes and everything. And Ravenwing now, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it'd be nice to see that change. And somebody has mentioned this in the chat, and I think it's a great idea as well, is to bring back Legion rules, or really to have the cult troops be very recognizable. Because right now the only thing you see is Plague Marines. That's what I was gonna say. Like, I'd like to see, because Chaos Space Marines, back when I played 40k, that was my army. I'd like to see them do something like what they did with the current Space Marine book,
Yeah.
So being able to give your guys like chapter traits, but like chaos versions. So your
Legion
whole
traits, buddy.
yeah, well, yeah, essentially legion traits. So change the way your army plays depending on which legion you picked. I think that'd be a cool add-on and a way to change up sort of how bland the chaos book is right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I would love to play Alpha Legion. I'm not gonna like without buying the Forge World 30K. I'm sure like we could get into it and it'd be awesome. But I would like to play like a proper Alpha Legion army. Maybe they all get infiltrate or something, right?
yeah, it would be awesome to see that kind of stuff come back. Like get special rule. Like so, we've had Crimson Slaughter and Black Legion, but they're super generic, right? Like you get an item that gives you Eternal Warrior, or you get the Demon Heart, and it's the same book. There's nothing fancy about it. You know, I want to go back to seeing Iron Warriors be Iron Warriors. If you take an Iron Warriors list, you get bonuses for your shooting, and you get
You
field
get
of
to
pain
take
or
a
something
basilisk.
crazy. Yeah, you get cool stuff like that. Because right now, the Chaos Space Marine book is really showing its age. Right, it was the second book that came out for 6th edition. The only thing that came out before it was the only book that's arguably worse than it, which is the old Dark Angels book. And they did a great job, an amazing job remaking that. So
Yeah.
I've got high hopes to see
To the
some
detriment
cool
of
stuff.
all the Blood Angels players.
Yeah, let's not talk about them.
Cool. So anything. So you're the only one that cares about Tau. What would you change it? What do you want to see in the Tau book?
The only thing I really want to see in the Tau book is some higher strength shooting, because right now for most Tau lists, and I don't think there are many people that disagree with this. If you have one thing that's armor 14 up against you, you're kind of screwed. You're not going to be able to kill it. Your only hope at that point is dropping in Melta units. And if you're running Tetras and somebody kills your armor 10 2 hull point open top Tetras, you're deep striking somewhere. And even if you do manage to blow something up with your crisis suits that come in, they're dead the next turn. They're
Yeah.
just too fragile.
Thing is though, is that's funny because they used to always say, man, I don't want to play against a Tau player with my Land Raider. Like, it used to be a thing. And then when those missile broadsides came out, and you can really only afford one unit of broadsides, right, realistically. Yep. And so everybody got rid of their railguns, and then the Land Raiders kept coming, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's another big shift in 7th edition meta as well, as you're starting to see the return of the high armor value stuff since they changed the damage table as well from 6 being exploded to 7. Made a tremendous difference for such a arguably small change. So I think that'll be cool to see, and probably just, I mean, with the way 40K is going, it'd be really cool to see other formations. Like we've got the fire support base cadre, which is outstanding. There's nothing bad at all about it. But I'd like to see some other options as well. Something with crisis suits. Because like Farside Enclaves right now, you take to get Earthcast and nothing else. There's no reason to play it really, unless you want to go suit spam. But you get no benefit for doing so.
Yeah, that's the problem with all the older books, is like the new books have like a million formations in them ever since Necrons, and so all the old books just don't have the same level of formations that you can't like. It's not that some of the formations are broken, but it's like you can just play around with them, right? Like my elites are troops now, so when I do this guy with the guard book or this with the Ravenwing book, they all combo up really nicely, and you can do these super Death Stars and these weird like my MSU armies, and it's really cool. Whereas like these guys just don't have that variety. It's like, oh, you're playing CAD.
Yeah, that's about it. It would be cool to see some more stuff, because right now, what most of the recent tournaments have been is you don't really, at least for the bigger GTs, is you don't see Tau players. You see somebody with the fire support base cadre and another army, because there's no reason to run the other stuff in the Tau book, and unless you want to spam Riptides, and even that's sort of out of style. But maybe we'll see a formation with 3 Riptides. Who knows? As long as they're not Lords of War, I'm happy. I don't think they will be, because they're nowhere near the level of other stuff that's been Lords of War. It would also be cool to see some characters that are in the Lords of War kind of thing, because they've got some good stuff with Shadow Sun, and Farsight's ability is pretty cool. But that's really all you ever see. So
well, people are going to give me shit with this. Most characters that become Lords of War, terrible.
Yeah,
it just allows you to take them and 2 other HQs in a CAD.
Exactly. It's pretty much just Drago is the only one I see kicking around.
Okay, so we'll take a quick 5 seconds. I'm just going to save my recording. I know this is unprofessional.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah, people won't mind. Okay, so I guess we can get on to events. So I'll start off with the first thing, which is in a week from today, which will be a few days after this episode is released on iTunes, and that's that War Masters Challenge sent out an email. What War Masters is, it's a 2-day 40K event. Well, they usually do a fantasy and a 40K. We don't know what they're going to do for the fantasy, but this one's a 40K one in September. It's 4-game double, 1,000 points each on this Saturday, and it's 4-game singles on the Sunday. You can basically win each tournament individually, and there's also prizes for the whole weekend overall. But basically, from what I understand, is the Legion kicked them out with 2 weeks prior to the event, which is where it was going to be run, due to renovations or construction. So I don't know if it was like an emergency thing or a planned thing and it fell through the cracks. I'm not sure, but I guess the Legion dropped the ball on that one and kind of shafted them. So they are going to be moving to Phoenix Games and Hobbies, which is 86 Queen Street South in Kitchener, Ontario. So make sure you know that. The one thing about Phoenix Games is that the best place to park is the parking garage across the street, which is $15 a day, sadly. So carpool in, maybe leave a car. If you're at a hotel with a bunch of dudes, drive in like with all of you in a car type thing to save that. That is kind of unfortunate, but that's okay. And then there's a few, go on their website, there's a few other things of street constructions. Now what they're going to do to make this up for people is this is going to lower their capacity down to 18. But they are now giving out, normally they give out 2 free drinks, I think, with your entrance fee for lunch. But now they're giving out, I do believe, don't quote me on this, but unlimited water and pop to all attendees as kind of a thank you. Now it also does mean that because they're down to 18 tables, sadly, if you haven't already registered, there's only a few openings left, so you might as well, like for the doubles for sure, like that's 18 tables with 4 guys at it. That's a lot of people for Kitchener. Like, you know, so they might be pretty close to selling out, but you might be able to get into that. But at 18 tables, I bet you the singles are probably almost sold out too. So make sure you register and do all that at warmasterschallenge.com, I do believe. But you can just put War Masters Challenge in Google and it should be the first thing that comes up. So that's that. So the next one, I guess I can do this one as well, is the Du Bois GT's coming up. Now it's the first weekend in November. Now, Du Bois GT is a very awesome tournament located in Rochester, New York. It's at like a resort, a mountain resort. Now, sadly, the hotel part is actually fully booked, so if you want accommodations, you have to book it at cottages. So, Gary sent me basically an announcement is registration is open for Du Bois GT. It's a 3-day event in Western New York featuring singles and doubles for Warhammer 40K, 8th Edition Fantasy, and Age of Sigmar. It's November 6th to 8th. Last year events had just under 180 total players, which is pretty good for singles events. Lunch is included with your price of admission for both Saturday and Sunday, but not on the Friday. And for more information, go to www.duboisgt.com. Boys has a Z or Z, depending on which country you're from. And if you want more info, you can email them at duboisgt@gmail.com. Or you can go on Twitter, and it's @Cornlord, is Gary, and he runs the 8th Edition and Age of Sigmar. And so, you know, get out there and please support him. He's taking over for Brian Moyer. He wants to make it a nice, solid event. And please sign up. Play in either of them. Now, Ron and I both signed up for the 40K set. Like, not sadly, because we're super stoked about it. But, you know, show him some support and make that tournament succeed. And I know you're going to this too, Logan, right?
Yeah, I'll be down there, assuming I can find somewhere to stay.
Right on. And then the last event that we're going to plug, this is a lot for us. We don't normally plug 3 events in one show. We used to, and then we went down to 1 per show, but this is a crazy time. Is you guys are running what, Logan?
We're running another tournament. Right now it's capped at 16 people, but we're looking to up it to 20-ish. It's going to be in November. Can't remember the exact date, but we'll have it in the notes for the show. And
it's November 21st.
There you go, November 21st. So it's a 1-day event, 4 rounds, 40K, 1850 points, full ITC comp. So yes, super heavies, all that good stuff. And we'll talk about why we're doing that when we get into the Bloodbath survey stuff coming up. But that's the gist of it. Right now it is sold out. We do have a waiting list. So, but we are looking to increase capacity depending on what the waiting list is a couple weeks out from the event. So there is space at the venue, but we just have to make sure we have enough terrain to ensure that we don't have crappy tables for people. Which is
all you gotta say is the word.
problem.
Stop by my house, and you have enough terrain.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got a few possibilities for that. But be sure to check it out. All the info for it is at oneplusarmor.com, and as I said, we'll have it in the show notes below.
And sadly, you guys are doing it the weekend before U.S. Thanksgiving or something like that. Well, whatever. I'm going down to the U.S. for American Thanksgiving, so I can't make it, and I'm actually gutted. So, is it ITC ranked? Like, are you gonna get ranked?
Yes. Yeah. We're a full ITC event. So if you show up, your scores will be in.
While we talk about it right now, this just saves us from talking about it later on, I guess. What is ITC ranking, man? Because like a lot of people don't know what it is, but like you, me, Jason, we're into this. Like we want to get ranked, and I could never seem to play in an ITC event. So
it's cool. It's cool once you get into it. So ITC is a tournament circuit that's run by the guys at Frontline Gaming, who are partners of ours, or I guess we're partners of theirs, whatever way you want to look at it. And basically their goal is to get some sort of standardized comp system for 40K across all sorts of different tournaments, all sorts of different geographies. So right now ITC is really big in the US, especially on the West Coast, and starting to go over to the East Coast as well. A lot of the larger events in Canada seem to be running it. It's starting to pick up in Europe, Australia, Japan and Korea have had some events that are using it, so it's really starting to blow up. But the really cool thing about this is that if you participate in these events, your scores get submitted back to them, and they keep track of all of the opponents you faced, what your scores were. It's like War Score, basically, the same sort of interface they have, except it's done in seasons. So instead of just seeing your individual ranking for an event, it will show you everybody else that plays either the same army as you, played in the same events. And then they also give out awards for these things at their big events, Bay Area Open and Las Vegas Open, for the people who are top in each of their respective races or top overall, all this stuff. And for the people who aren't super hobbyist and are really just on the gaming side of it, it's purely done with battle points, nothing else. And it's all win, loss, draw. So you get tons of points if you manage to go through a tournament and you keep winning games, you get bonus points. If you come in, top 3 at an event, you get bonus points for that. So it's hyper competitive in that respect. And because they boil it down to I think it's your top 3 results overall out of all the events you go to. But because it's done for in race, even a lot of the people who play arguably weaker armies, if they're doing representatively better than the other people who are playing those armies, their ranking is actually really good. So it's pretty cool. So be sure to check it out. We'll have a note for that in the show notes as well, but it's over on frontlinegaming.org if you want to dig up some more info.
Sounds good. So we have a question in the chat. Did you want to address that now or wait till later about the super heavies?
Let's talk about it when we go through the survey results for Bloodbath.
Okay, sounds good. So we're going to take a quick break. Be right back.
Hey Logan, can you send me the link for the survey again?
Absolutely.
Okay guys, so I am not recording. I just saved the recording. We're going to take a quick 2-minute pee/drink break. Fill up your water bottle, fill up your liquor, whatever you want to do.
All right. Did you get that, Andrew?
40. So 9:40 we'll be back.
Yes, I did.
And let me send you the results spreadsheet. That's the important one.
Oh yeah, that's what I wanted.
Okay, there you go. Second link.
Perfect. Weird, that's not showing up in the Google Docs list.
I'm pretty sure I shared it with you.
Yeah.
Anyway, for anybody on the stream, thanks for joining us. This is the first time we're doing it, so I didn't expect a huge turnout, but it's nice of you to join us if you have. If you do have any questions, we'll do a Q&A at the end of the show, but feel free to toss them in the chat now, and we'll definitely get to them when they come up or when we're at the end of it. So Andrew, when I was at Kobolds over the weekend, I saw the Age of Sigmar battle gauge. I thought it was like a full-size tack template. It is 3 inches.
Yeah, but it has a good price on it, so that's the main thing.
$40.
$40 Canadian.
Yep. Yep. So
I'm surprised you guys didn't go into the price of that Celestian Prime.
I don't even know what it is. I expect it's like $80 though.
95.
Oh. Well, if it's in a gas size model or close to it, that's not that bad.
Do its weapons have reach?
2-inch.
So, can its weapons even reach?
That's that's a fair question, actually. Let me see if I can find a picture of this guy.
Like, if you measure from the weapon, not the base, then can you even
Oh,
attack?
man. Looks like he's on a 60 mil base. So
Alright.
that's a bit over 2 inches. He would have a really hard time hitting stuff. We should talk about this when Chris gets his headphones back on.
So, he's not as good as you guys are all thinking.
So Chris, Andrew just pointed out a really interesting problem with the Celestin Prime.
What's that?
His weapons have a 2-inch reach, but his weapons are about 2 inches off of the ground and in the center of a 60 mil base. So he's gonna have a really hard time hitting stuff.
Well, no, don't forget, like, his base doesn't count.
Well, either way, it's not just the base. He's got all the swirly shit under him.
Yeah.
So no matter where you put him, even if like that's overlapping something else, he's gonna have a hard time hitting a lot of stuff.
That's why our comp is go from the base.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly. It
fine.
makes more sense. But
I'm
yeah,
gonna buy that guy. I love him.
it's a
I
cool
love,
model.
I love the Historic Gust Eternals. I'm like really into them. With my brother playing AOS now, man. Oh, I'm gonna play so much of it.
Is he picking up Batman?
We're going to that Batman event. We should have plugged it,
I want to go to that so bad.
but we're gonna go to that, and so we might borrow your cruise or just like not play and just kind of go.
Let me know beforehand, because I'm leaving that Thursday for New Brunswick.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I'll let you know for sure.
Okay.
Cool. So you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're back, and we're going to talk about the first kind of segment in our main topic, which will be generic CCBB concepts. So we'll start off with Andrew. What is CCBB, bro?
So it's Capital City Bloodbath. It's an event we ran here August 29th and 30th, here in Ottawa, I should say. So we ran 40K and Age of Sigmar. We had decent turnout for 40K, considering it was the first year we ran it. So we had, I think, 44, 46 people.
34.
No, sorry, 34 or 36 people. And we had, unfortunately, 10 people show up for Age of Sigmar.
Which is a shame. Like, I don't know, I was like, I was so depressed at that number, actually.
I was
It's like
upset too, but I think like the guys who did play had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And maybe we did sort of jump ship on 8th a little too soon after like Age of
Nope.
Sigmar was released.
No,
You don't think so?
We're not admitting to that. No, we made at the time, we made the decision that made the most sense. So let's get into it then. So it was Age of Sigmar or it was 8th edition, right?
Fair enough.
So I kind of made the call. I'm not gonna lie. You agreed with me, but I made the call.
Yep.
So I sat back and I went, 8th edition is dead. So we have 2 months. We're designing this comp system so that everybody can take their legal 8th edition army. And basically what I kind of was trying to do is, if I run 8th edition this year, next year I'm running a smaller 8th edition tournament. The year after I'm running an even smaller 8th edition tournament, and so on and so forth. Whereas I was like, if I run an Age of Sigmar tournament this year, next year, theoretically, I'll be running a bigger Age of Sigmar tournament. And that's
Yep.
kind of my whole mindset. And I still stand by that. I feel like by us getting our comp pack out there, getting people playing it, and we'll get into the feedback later, I have hopes that maybe we can grow that a little bit.
And one thing I will note, just talking very briefly about the comp, is if you want to see some more games with it, the Frontline Gaming guys are going to be streaming using Revision 2 of our comp pack, which will be out in a few days.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you, Frontline. You're my hero. Okay, so keep going, Andrew. Sorry, we went on our little rant off there. So, it's a tournament.
It's a tournament that we ran. So it's a 2-day GT grand tournament. We had 6 games for both systems, so 4 on the first day, which is a bit of a stretch, but a lot of people got through it all right. And then 2 on the second day, just so, people from out of town and stuff, and we did have quite a few people from out of town, would be able to get home at a decent hour for if they had to work the next day. We offered lunch both days, so meals included. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and the lunch on the Saturday was awesome.
Yeah, those sandwiches were so good.
Oh, there was like this portobello mushroom and like I think it was I don't know. It was just amazing. Like
I think
there was leftovers,
cream cheese in that one, but yeah.
Yeah, I took like the leftovers back to my room and ate it for breakfast.
Yeah, I wanted to steal your sandwiches. Now this year we offered something new compared to last year. So we had a garage sale. So what that was some volunteers. One of the attendees, BJ from up in Pembroke or Deep River. He sort of sometimes runs garage sales at big events for people, so he agreed to do it this year. And basically what it is the attendees, or I guess anyone, brings in the stuff they don't want. So people brought in models, board games, comic books, sort of like a nerd garage sale. And they had sort of log it all down, take in what price you want to sell it for, and maybe like a lower haggling price if people do want to haggle a bit. And then they'd actually sell the models or the product for you and then give you the money at the end of the event. So it's just a cool way to, get rid of some models, check out get some new stuff and things like that.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff sold. I think they sold $1,000 worth of merchandise.
Yeah, something like that.
At least. Paul Nelson alone sold $1,000 worth of stuff, apparently.
Well, he didn't because he sold after the garage sale. He sold 500 or 600, like his whole instruments army. So, because what it was is because we supplied the space, the whole point of the sale was that 10% goes to the tournament. Right. And so we ended up getting like $140 or something, right? So it was over $1,000.
Yeah, that's really good.
So whatever he sold after, we lost like $40 or something. But that's fine because that money can now, basically the way that Andrew and I and Jason, who we should talk about, Jason is our third organizer, I guess you could say, or investor, whatever you want to say. We basically designed this event to break perfectly even. So every penny we put in just goes in, like your entrance ticket, basically what you're getting back in terms of gaming, food, venue, like air conditioning and all that stuff. That all is basically your whole entrance ticket goes to that, and there's no extra cut. Like last year we actually ran into a slight debt, and then this year we were able to pay back our debt, and we essentially broke even. And then with this extra money from the garage sale, we're able to reinvest it into something for next year. So I know it's not a ton of money, but the garage sale allows us to basically have a little bit of money in our pool to then invest next year on something, right? We're throwing ideas around. Don't hold us this like we're thinking event dice or templates or just something, right, that we can give out as loot, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and like the main thing is like we're not taking this extra money. We're going to use it to make the event even better for subsequent years.
Yeah, like I have the budgets, so if somebody's really worried about it, I don't mind showing our budgets. We're not going to publish them like on the internet, but if you want to see them because you're like, because we did get some criticism that it was expensive at $75, but when you really think about it, you're at a properly air-conditioned hall with properly cleaned full bathrooms with 2 full meals, one of which is a buffet of sandwiches, one of which is pizza with dessert, and the dishes that accommodate that. $75 doesn't, like, I can't go out for 2 meals in a weekend for $75, right? So
yep.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get into the venue. So this year we moved from last year's venue. So last year we held it at the Hilton Garden in their convention space, and it was nice. But this year, we did anticipate bigger numbers, and we had a chance to get this better venue across the street, the Ernst & Young Center. So they gave us one of their warehouse rooms, which is just humongous. Like with our setup, we only used not even a third, I think.
Yeah, and to note, it's a warehouse-sized room, but this is a proper convention center that this was held in.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I say warehouse, but that's just because of the size. Like they set it up, they hold all the sort of major events here, like Comic-Con, some gun shows, like everything that comes through happens basically there.
Yeah, we had 7 foot. We had like I think it was 7 foot between table of space.
And that was in
Yeah,
a third of the room.
yeah. We spread out, and we still barely used. Like we didn't even get to a third almost. So yeah, they set it up really nice too. They laid down carpet everywhere. They had a nice seating area for the lunch, so you weren't just eating at your gaming table. They had all the tables set up for the garage sale, plus all the tables that we're actually playing our games on. And every table had 2 chairs, had 7 feet of space at least between each table, so you weren't bumping ass with the guy behind you. It was just a really great venue. They totally set us up real nice.
Oh, and it was awesome too because I think it was like 7 inches or 6 inches of table space. So we had 6x4 boards or mats, and then basically there was a 6 to 7 inch like table gap around the board, so you could put like your dead guys off the table. You keep your dice off the table, and it was just like really really cool.
Yeah.
I was like the amount of space that we got was just epic, and I'm so happy about it. Okay, and then one thing too that we forgot to do is I want to do a special thanks to 2 of the clubs that attended, the Trois Riviera or Trois River, Three Rivers from Quebec. Those guys bought us a 4-pack of like really awesome microbrew. So
Yeah, I'm actually drinking the one you gave me here right now.
yeah, so Andrew and I split that up between the
Yeah.
2 of us, and we drank them. And I have a picture on my phone. I forget the name. The one stout that they gave me is the best stout that I've ever had, and I'm just gonna go buy more next time I'm in Quebec City. Or well, not it's south of, but I'll make a detour down to buy it because it's so awesome. And I also want to give a shout out to the Atomic Death Squad, who got custom combat gauges made for Age of Sigmar. You can't really see it in the camera.
Oh, that's
but
cool.
They got custom. They're basically exactly like the GW ones, and so they got them made, and they gave me one as like a token of appreciation. So thanks, guys. That's really awesome. Thanks for that.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool too. So other things about our event that we do. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Andrew, or generically, like what you can expect if you come next year?
Yeah, so I guess like one of the things we wanted, because we were all tournament players before we decided to run this event, was have really good terrain. So that's something we really tried to strive for both years now, is have like high quality terrain, really nice setups that are also like not just thematic but also like good to play on as well. So I think this year we really stepped it up compared to last year, and hopefully our attendees appreciated that.
Yeah, well, we got a tweet because I was tweeting pictures of like everything all day as much as I could. So if you go to my @CanHammer Chris, you can scroll back. You're gonna have to go back several weeks now from when you're listening to this, but you'll be able to see like just pictures of tables. And so CCBB, I forget the exact quote the guy said. I think it was one of the Australian guys. He said, "What does it stand for? Crazy Canadian Best Board Tournament or something like that."
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. And I was like, "No, replace board with boys, and you'll be." That's what it is.
Oh my.
Oh, beautiful boards. That's what it was.
Beautiful,
Crazy
Yeah.
boys.
beautiful boards. And I was like, nah, change the boards to boys. But
Yeah.
that's not true at all. So
And if you do want to see pictures of the venue and the table setups, we do have a ton of them on our One Plus Armor Facebook page. So facebook.com/OnePlusArmor, I believe.
Yeah,
because I love food, because I'm fat, I did take a video of the buffet. So you can take a look for what, it's not going to be the same next year, but we're going to, that's what we strive for. This is how our budget's set up. So this is, I'm assuming next year's going to be the same, but
Hopefully, yeah.
hopefully, right, the best we can do. Cool, so what's next, guys?
Well, let's roll the survey into 40K because it only went out to the 40K people. So let's jump into that then.
Sure thing.
So we're going to move on to segment 2 in the major topic of this show, which is the 40K CCBB tournament. This is the first year we ever did this. We did 1850 modified ITC, and Logan will get into that in a second. And this was awesome. So we were stoked to add 40K to the event. We had a really good turnout at our fantasy event last year, and we were like, when you go to a big convention, it's nice to see the 40K guys and the fantasy guys have it all playing. Just show your love. Just more people in the venue just gets more straight up money to buy prizes and trophies and things like that. One thing that I'm really into is I like to give away lots of trophies, because I always used to hate it when you get like second overall and you get nothing, no credit. They don't even announce your name, or you get like second gen, like, you know what I mean? They never treat you well. So I was like, I want top 3 in every category: painting, overall, generalship. We did drop sportsmanship, and I did get some negative feedback about that, as some people felt that should come back, and it might come back next year in a new system that I'm designing right now that's top secret. It's ripped off Alpaca, so read their pack and you might understand it a little bit. But you know, we gave out 10 trophies for this event. We gave out a trophy for last place, and then of course the 9 for the top 3. So we just wanted to have lots of them. We also gave out certificates for best in race. We did miss Corn Demonkin, and his certificate is on the way to him right now. But so we were just giving away tons of trophies, and some of the big ones had prizes associated with them, which was just really awesome.
On a note about that, it's actually, he'll get it when he comes to the event we're running in November, because he is actually attending. So it's not in the mail. We'll have it for you when you come to our event here in Ottawa again, which you already are signed up for if you're listening.
You know who you are. We won't. Do you want to give his name?
Yeah, it's Olivier Doyle from Trois-Rivières.
So yeah, he won Best Demonkin, and then Andrew was like, Demonkin's not a real book, and we had this huge discussion on is Demonkin a faction? And then I just said, like, why are we even talking about this? Just, it is a faction.
Yeah, that was my fault. I dropped the ball. I figured we'd count Demons of Chaos and Demonkin as the same category, but I guess people didn't want that to fly. So we do have a certificate for him, and we'll give it to him when we see him.
Cool, so we'll hand over to Logan, talk about the 40K comp.
Sure. So as Chris said, we were running a modified ITC comp for this, and that modification was no super heavies, just for now anyway, no super heavies. We changed invisibility a tiny bit. We used the ITC bit as the baseline, but just also put it so marker lights couldn't affect it. And what was the other thing we changed? I can't even remember. That was one of the big ones though. So
we didn't go with the new D corrections. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah. So we originally announced this and did our comp pack and everything back in, I think, June or May. So we used the older version of the D weapon table from ITC, which was the D2 wounds and then 2 wounds for the 6 result, which, you know, we've gotten some feedback on. But either way, we're going to be using the actual ITC one moving forward. But overall, the comp seemed to be really popular, and we'll talk about that coming up with the survey that I keep mentioning. Yeah, it went really well. For missions, we used the ITC mission pack as a baseline for it, and just did a few tweaks. Change things around, deployment maps, where objectives go, some of the secondary objectives, just to try to deal with some of the types of armies we knew would be coming, and to make it not as drastic a shift from a lot of the other GTs around here, so that people are more in line with it. And we also did a fair bit of playtesting with it with a previous event, our first Power Fists and Psychers event back in, I think it was in June, to get feedback around those missions, did some tweaking there, and we've since done yet more tweaking.
Yeah, well, I think you guys did, because Logan basically did the missions and tweaked them. He did an awesome job. He did, all the secondaries were modified Maelstrom, which is really, really cool, because Maelstrom puts you on your toes. It means that you have to have more mobility, and when the game is evolving into a shooting game, mobility is key. It's just sad that Eldar both shoot and have the most mobility, so...
Though, let's talk about the results. Where did Eldar come in?
Was there any, or were they like...
There was one Eldar player, and this is not a knock against him in any form, but just an interesting comment on the local meta here. Our only Eldar player came in, I think, around 28th.
Yeah, but how competitive would you rate him as a player? Because I don't even remember who that
was. As a player, he's a relatively competitive guy. He didn't bring a very, very hard list, though.
So that
I think that's part of it. But
I think just there was no Eldar. Like, that was the crazy thing. And it could be, too, one thing that I find about our meta here is people are slow to adapt. So, like, the book came out a few months ago. Very few people around here are going to go out and buy, as I just did, like a retard, 18 bikes, right? So...
Yeah, exactly. So we tried to cater a lot to the folks we knew would be coming, and people in the local meta and whatnot. But we did have
straight up. That's why there was no Lords of War. Straight up, is nobody wanted them, and I know all the outsiders, as Logan said in the survey, they all want them, but our core Ottawa gaming group does not want super heavies, or did not prior to this event. So, guys, sorry, like, these are our locals. These are the guys we play with every day. They're the guys that support us. They're the guys that will come out no matter what. We got to cater to them a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the big reasons that I put out the survey, and Age of Sigmar guys, don't fret, we are going to get one out to you. Just need to amalgamate all the email addresses. But for 40K, we sent out a survey just for info about, did you enjoy the event? Did you like the comp? What would you like to see changed about it? Yada, yada, yada. But one of the big things in it was, do you want to see super heavies in the future? And the answer, actually, I think we've had 24 responses, has overwhelmingly been yes. It's like a 70-30 split for yes, no.
They are comp, though.
They are
ITC
comp.
only allows one, so
yeah,
it's not like the floodgate opened. It's one Night Titan. Which,
yeah.
if you know that, bring Fire Dragons, bring Sisters of Battle, right? Bring something with Melt-A-Guns in a pod. Come in, boom, dead Night Titan done.
Yeah, exactly. It's you're limited to one super heavy unless you're playing the Imperial Knights book, in which case you can bring your whole army, but it's only 5 models and you have nothing else. So yeah, it's one super heavy, and it's only from the ITC approved list. So there's none of the like apocalyptic blast, ignores cover, strength 10, instant death, whatever. There's no torrent, hellstorm templates. They've kept it somewhat reasonable. There are a few things in there that are a little crazy still, like the Knight Acheron, but they're pretty few and far between. And when you're only taking one, they're relatively easy to account for a lot of armies.
And by next year, the list will be modified because that's one thing that Logan kind of mentioned is we are going strict ITC basically because let them, with their thousands of logged games, modify the meta, right? We don't have the tools at our disposal to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the reasons that I really wanted this, and that's one of the reasons that we're doing ITC for all our events here, is, despite whatever people may think about, book X is better than book Y, or the game's imbalanced at 1850 versus 1500, or with allies versus no allies, whatever it is, the fact is, as Chris said, the ITC guys and Frontline, they literally have thousands and thousands of games under their comp that they've put into this and been able to correlate the results. And at practically every event they've run, it has been a varied top 8. It's not like where we see, 4 Necrons, 4 Eldar for your top 8, or like we were seeing in 6th edition with Taudar,
Yeah.
Eldau, Taudar.
Or just Eldar.
Just Eldar.
Just all wave serpents.
Yeah, there's very, very little of that. There's almost never a duplicate on primary in top 8, and it's not always the same army. So it's been promising. I've been really happy with what I've seen for it, and even a lot of people who have gone to other events recently, like Nova, who didn't use ITC, but more importantly didn't use super heavies, have been commenting saying they actually prefer playing 40k with super heavies now, simply because it gets rid of the Death Star problem for a lot.
Yeah, well,
of
that's the thing. Dan Platt and Mike from London, shout out, bros. Dan has a YouTube channel. I don't have the link on me. He didn't send it to me yet. Come on, Dan. But they basically both emailed me, man. They said, you're not allowing super heavies. That means there's going to be Death Stars that win it, right? And I was like, it is what it is, man, but you're right. Like, they allow you to counter, like, the big Wolf Star that won Nova, I do believe, right?
Yep.
With the 2 Tech Marines on Wolves and just a huge freaking unit. And I think it had a Psychic Conclave with it as well.
Yep. Yeah, so, it was almost exactly the same as what Mike ran at Bloodbath. And then Dan was playing his demons, and he runs, if I remember correctly, a pretty similar list to what Nick Nanavati runs, which a lot of people listening will probably be familiar with. But, multi Death Star with Screamers and Plague Drones and whatnot. And then third place was a guy who, actually, shout-outs to this guy, Wesley Pauly, flew out from Edmonton to come to our event because it was an ITC event. So
and his army was ridiculous.
Thanks very much, Wesley.
We have to talk about
crazy.
Wesley's army because it was ridiculous.
His entire army was one Death Star. It was fantastic.
I talked to him about it, and he said, no, it's only 30 or 40 guardsmen, 50's too unwieldy. It was like a 50-man guardsman, 30-man or 40-man guardsman blob. I have his list, but I don't want to look it up right now. 40. He had a Psyker Conclave in it. He had a whole bunch of Space Wolf characters. He had Cypher in it. He had Commissar Yarrick. You name it, that guy had it in this one blob, and he just kind of moved it around the board, engaged stuff, and then just broke it apart and took objectives. And it was just hilarious watching him play because it was like so funny.
Yeah, he did. He played it very well too. But yeah, it did take a fair bit of finesse, but it was hilarious. I mean, it was literally a single unit that had every USR in the game practically.
Yeah, the only thing it was
from 3 different books.
He had his platoon command squad that he always reserved too.
Yeah, just to sit in the back.
There's a few nail biters, right? Like Cypher can't infiltrate and join the unit, or he can't, because he's an infiltrator, he can't join the unit until turn 1. So he'd like hide Cypher, and then he'd jump in, give him shrouding, and we talked about it a lot. And he's probably going to drop the Cypher, which is cool, but because Cypher's my favorite model ever. But he's just, because he's basically standing there with his balls out turn 1, he can die, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a funny list, and I think the feedback from a lot of people was it exemplified everything that's wrong with 40k. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think that list, you bring a Knight Acheron against that, and if you get turn one, that list basically dies. So it's one of those problems that super heavies help against for sure. So it'll be really interesting to see how the meta shifts with those being introduced up here, because there are a lot of people who are brand new to that, or don't play with them at all, or don't like them. And my only thing I can say is give it a shot and play. Come out to an event or play a bunch of games with your buddies and see if after 10 games, and this is the same thing I said when I started AOS. See if after 10 games you like it or you don't like it, and make a decision from there, because it is a different game.
And the thing about 40k, man, no matter what, crack a beer, throw some dice. It's fun. It's pretty. That's the one. 40k is a pretty game. Looks really nice. Makes good battle reports. It's just a beautiful game. So Logan, do you want to quickly run through, because you played in it, he helped us design the pack for P&P, and then Logan was basically a playing member. So do you want to run through your army quickly, and then maybe who you played if you want to or not, or maybe one game stuck out, or maybe 2 games stuck out?
Sure. So I'll give a super quick overview of those, and then we'll talk about the results. So I brought my Talon Farside Enclaves, so 3 missile sides, buff commander, Shadow Sun with a unit of Crisis Suits with Melta, and a bunch of shield drones, and another unit of Crisis Suits with Twin Linked Fusion and Plasma, 12 Fire Warriors with a Cadre Fireblade, and 2 Riptides, 1 with Ion, and then 1 with Earthcast and the Burst Cannon, and a unit of Crude.
No feel no pain on those Riptides?
On one of them. It was the Ion Tide had Feel No Pain Interceptor, and the Burst Tide with Earthcast had Skyfire Interceptor.
Okay.
And they performed relatively well for me. I think I didn't do as well as I wanted at the event. I think I got, well, we'll talk about that after I talk about my matches. So first game, I had I played against a guy who came over from Toronto, if I remember his name, Kieran Gibb, who played a really really nasty Skyhammer Annihilation Force list with Ultramarines, and just wiped the table with me. I had basically no models left at the end of turn 2, so I had Operation Submarine from there.
Yeah, but you happened to play him, and he's in my, I think going into the event based on lists and what I heard from some of my buddies in Toronto, I was putting him top 10, top 5.
Yep.
And then same thing as Danny's round 1, he played Dan Platt, and I was like, wow, this is going to be bad for one of them.
I will note that Danny won that game.
You did win that game, which I would have never guessed.
Danny did very, very well, except for one game, unfortunately. Anyway, round 2, I played against, I can't quite remember. I think it was one of the Ottawa guys, though. Yeah, it was one of the Ottawa guys. Tyranids player had a really fun game. Game 3, I played against another Ottawa dude, Jamie. Another fun game.
Jamie's a buddy of yours, right? Like,
yeah.
He's kind of affiliated. He does like video reports with you guys or something?
Yeah, he does a few bat reps with us. Helps us out with our paint studio as well.
Cool.
Game 4, last game of day 1, I cannot remember who I played. Honestly, I'd have to look at the results. All I know is I had a bunch of really fun games. And then I started out day 2 after doing really well for 3 games, and I played against Wesley Polly, the guy we were just talking about with the guard blob, and I got minimum points. I got 10.
Yeah, he massacred you. It didn't look bad, man. Like, I was like, oh, the blob is moving towards the Tau. It's like, it didn't look terrible, and then it went bad, right?
Yeah, basically, because of all the psychic powers he had, and the fact he got all the orders from guard off as well, like, he failed nothing the entire game, basically. And of course, I'm playing Tau. I can't, deny the witch for shit, really. So it went very heavily in his favor. So it was just slowly advancing. I managed to take out about half of the guardsmen, but that was about it.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. So I think I got maybe 1 point above minimum for that one. And then last round, I played against one of the guys from Trois-Rivières, Pierre-Luc, with his Decurion, and pulled out a win by 1 point.
Oh, that's good, man. That's good. He was coming to win it.
Yeah, he got second place at our tournament in June at a 20-man event. So yeah, he's a solid player. But yeah, I got, I think, 16th overall or something. I was hoping to do better, but yeah, Wesley sort of put a stop to that plan. But no, I had a ton of fun. But for overall results, we had, I'm doing this from memory.
No, no, I have it up in front
You
of
have
me.
it
I
up?
can do it.
You
No
can walk us through
problem.
results.
I'm professional. Don't worry. So, best overall went to Dan Platt, and he basically killed it. He was, well, 6 points above the next highest, but yeah, he was right up there. Second overall was Wesley Pauly with 86 total out of what was it, out of 100, and Dan was 92. Then Mike Strang, so two of the London guys in the top three. Jeez. Then Jason Sparks got fourth overall, but of course he was a tournament organizer, so he got no prizes. I think he would have won one of the generalships or something like that, but we didn't. I think it was best general he would have won, but we didn't give it to him because he didn't want it because he basically is affiliated with the tournament and he was just kind of playing to play and get his aggression out on people. Olivier Doyon, he got best general. Best painted went to Andrew Triple. Second paint went to Ricky Johnson. Second general went to Riley Maxwell. So that's actually two of the guys from my Adepticon team right there. And then Matt Burke got third general. And then Alex Thibodeau got third paint. And that was actually because that was a huge tie. So a lot of people were like, man, that's kind of weird. But he tied on paint with a whole bunch of people. And then it went to battle. Because that's just how we always do it, is we go to the next highest score, which was battle. So if anybody's wondering, that's just how the numbers worked out. Now, anybody that was maybe iffy about paint or stuff like that, we did like a checkbox painting list. So you could have technically had a better painted army than somebody, but your paint score might have been lower just because of the checkboxes. So I'm going to hand it over to Andrew to talk about the paint scoring a little bit because he was our paint judge.
Yeah, so I did the paint judging this year. A lot of really great armies out there. And like Chris said, it wasn't so much judging like the quality of the paint, because there were some really great ones that didn't score high just because they didn't fill out on each category. So there was like is everything painted? If it was, you got like 30 points right off the bat. You'd get points for conversions, but it wasn't like complexity of conversions. That was another score. It was like number of. And it's just sort of things like that. Like we're looking for display boards, and that was a good chunk of points. Any type of free hand, so that could be banners, if there's banners in 40K, or
There
just
is.
squad markings on guys, I guess, like stuff like that, like anything at all. And a lot of people didn't have that, so people who did have really nice armies sort of scored low just because they didn't check those points off.
And that's one thing. Our paint sheet was posted. It was the same paint sheet we used last year, except I took away the story.
Yeah.
And it was posted all year, and then I had the modified one posted, I think, 3 months ago. So
Right, and we actually adopted that from Chaos Ludic from 2 years ago. So I think they've changed the way they've done the scoring as well. But it's basically a system that was used in the region. That's why we chose to adopt it, and they gave us permission to do so. I think we are going to try to do something different next year, just because we want those best painters to actually win or at least score better. So I think we're going to change it so it isn't just like fill in the boxes. If you didn't do these X things, you lose points. It'll be more of a quality of the job.
yeah, I think next year we want to kind of do a system where the best painted has nothing to do with the tournament. It's like 3 trophies that are just a side event.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we'll do like the painting would be like, oh, is your army done? Oh, well, you get pretty damn close to max paint points, and who gives a crap for overall? But it's all about like, we want to do maybe a painting contest kind of and separate it from the actual game. Not completely, because it is a hobby still, and nobody likes playing against plastic, but it is what it is. Cool. So I think that's it for the 40K. You guys have anything left to add?
No, that's it for me.
Not me.
Cool. I'm just going to rename the file so you guys that are on the stream are seeing our back behind the scenes. This would be segment 1 to 2. Yeah, so we're gonna do. Well, I'll introduce that when we get there. That's the one really wicked part about live streaming, is that we can almost have 6 guys in an episode, but only like 2 of us need to essentially be in through most of it. You know what I mean? And then he's having trouble with my video because he has outdated Skype.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, say a little bit more because your Skype will adjust.
All right. Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Yeah. Maybe move the mic a bit away from your mouth if you can.
Where is the mic?
There,
I'm
that's
using
good. Oh, kind of hold it at like if you're holding an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of hold it like you're holding it to watch TV. The mic's at the bottom, next to the speaker, on the left side,
Hmm.
next to your headphone jack.
Ah, I see it. Is that
So
better?
yeah, you want to have it pointing down and a little bit away from you, kind of, so that it's not getting your air from your mouth kind of blowing over it. But
Okay.
yeah, it's not terrible. That's good right there.
That's,
Okay, so we'll just do the best we can. So I'm just gonna start recording in 5, 3, 2. Okay, so we're back for segment 3, and we're gonna talk about AOS at Capital City Bloodbath. So the wicked part about doing the stream is now we basically bring in a caller. So welcome, John. You're joining us from
Burlington, Vermont.
Awesome. So he's calling in because he played in the AOS tournament, had a gay old time. Right on. So I guess we'll start with the comp. So I'll hand it over to I guess Logan again. He's our comp expert. What was the comp for Capital City like?
Sure. So the goal going into this, as I think Chris said earlier, was to make sure that people could basically take their old armies from Fantasy and still be able to field them, because it was pretty short notice. I think we had like a month and a half or 2 months or something. So it was a bit much to completely change your army. So what we did was we limited it to 125 wounds overall, which for most armies resulted into about the same total size in terms of model count. And we split that up into a couple different pools. So you could have, I think it was 0 to 8 heroes, wizards, or monsters, heroes, monsters, and war machines, and then 0 to 4 wizards. I think it was something along those lines. I don't have it right in front of me right now. And then it was no triplicate, no more than triplicate war scrolls, and then we did a lot of nerfing on summoning as well. You were only able to summon 1 unit per turn, and it would be the minimum size that unit could be. I don't think we did really much else. We did a big FAQ for it as well, just to clarify a few rules and obvious typos in the war scrolls. But for the most part, stuff like the special rules where if you've got a bigger mustache, you get a bonus, or, so people aren't yelling, "For the lady!" all the time. We just changed it so those rules are always in effect. The only exception to that was Greasiest Goldtooth, where you would have to literally bribe your opponent if you wanted to get that off.
Yeah, because that was too good. I heard about a tournament where they had that go off on a 5+, and it was like, oh, 5+, I get 1 of your units.
Yeah, I'll just take Nagash over here.
Yeah.
So we've gotten some feedback on it as well, and there's been a few other events locally or somewhat locally that have run it as well. So we're working on a revision 2, as I said. So hopefully we'll see that in the next couple days.
So I'm gonna hand it over to John. Good, bad, ugly. I want you to be frank with us. What was the comp like going into it?
I think it was pretty good. I really liked it. I thought you guys did a really good job trying to look it up from every viewpoint. I mean, you really had a blank slate. You guys were on there, I think, within hours after the War Scrolls were released.
Yep.
And, yeah, I mean, I think summoning, I think that's going to be the trickiest thing going forward. Because you guys, I kind of get the sense you think you overcomped it.
Yeah, I definitely feel that we overcomped summoning. Because just from looking at it, the books in our comp that did really well, in my opinion, was all the books that didn't do summoning, because their units tend to be better. Like dwarves, ogres, they don't summon, but their stuff is good. Orcs, their units are good. Dark elves, their units are really good, but they don't summon. Now the only summoning that really kind of, if it wasn't for this combo, like if the rules in the book said you can't summon when you're summoned, then there would be no comp needed, I feel, because like it's the fact that I could raise a unit of horrors, and on like a 5+ on 2 dice, I get another unit of horrors that can raise another unit of horrors that can raise another unit of horrors that can raise another unit of horrors. And if I have 3,000 horror models, I fill the board in turn 2. So.
Yay!
Yeah, there are some rather abusive things you can do. So we FAQ'd a fair bit of that and changed it. But to the point of overcomping versus undercomping, from what I've seen, we had a more lenient system than some tournaments. I think I was reading this about Du Bois. They want to just can summoning entirely for their AOS event. Don't even want to touch it. That's not final though. That was just something they were throwing around. So we'll see if that's the case. But John, I seem to recall you had some thoughts on that as well.
Well, my issue from the games I played that involved summoning is not so much the summoning mechanic. It's one of the practitioners is summoning Mr. Nagash.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. Nagash is over the top.
Yeah, we will note that we actually comp Nagash pretty hard. He's 4 out of your 5 possible wizard choices, but based on what we've seen and heard, that may change to be even more restrictive moving forward. Just the double range is crazy when you can sit behind a building and summon Terrorgeist on the other side of the table.
It's just insane. There's basically no way to get around it. And Nagash is no slouch in combat either. Even if you got something across the board in combat with him, it's more likely Nagash is going to kill it. So there's not a lot of good counters for him, I found.
Yeah, that's the thing. So maybe I'll talk about what I learned about the comp at CCBB based on feedback and stuff. Is we basically, I think the early draft changes to version 2 was that I made it so you could summon 2 units a turn. We also made it so Nagash was worth 6 points instead of 4, and then I added a sidebar, which is optional in the comp rule, where you could take an extra 25 wounds. Now that's not final. We haven't voted on that and done that, but that's just some of the stuff that immediately popped in my head that maybe we should fix. Is Nagash is just too good. He was too good in 8th Ed. He's too good now. And Malekith is borderline, in my opinion, as well. He's borderline too good. So,
that being said, we didn't really see. I don't think there was any undead players there.
No, not at ours.
That's why I feel like we might have overcomped undead, is because of that. But then it was also we had low turnout, so who knows?
Need more data. Sure. I think is the bottom line.
Yeah, we need more data, so we're doing just really minor changes and tweaks just to get a cleaned up version out. Sounds good. So we'll move on to the scenarios. So most of our scenarios were basically. You win by a wound percentage, so the percentage of wounds you take compared to the percentage of wounds your opponent takes, and then you get a score. So what'd you think of the scenarios, John, or what popped out about them?
Can't even remember now. It's been a few weeks now. So the one thing that sticks in my mind, though, is the one where it was the random turn orders. I think 3 or 4 of the games you diced off every turn, so you had the top and bottom of the round.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which could create the double turn. And I think 2 or 3 of the games you had where it was fixed turns.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think the planning for the double turn is a huge part of Age of Sigmar, from what I can see so far. So I was kind of interested what your reason, why you chose to split it up like that.
Sure. So Nick from our group, One Plus Armor, wrote most of the scenarios, I think, except for the last 2, which were Chris's work. So I don't necessarily know which were which, but a lot of that decision came down to the fact that a lot of us think that the potential for 2 turns in a row is a terrible idea from a game design perspective. And then there's a lot of folks on the other side of it as well who are in the same mindset as you, John, which is, it's a really interesting tactical decision you have to make, especially given the fact that there's very few consequences for things like failed charges in Age of Sigmar. So having to plan for the potential of your opponent getting 2 turns in a row, or the the risk reward around planning for you getting a second turn in a row is a pretty deep part of the game.
So I was going to say I wrote the first and the last, and so Nick had written them so they were all you go I go back and forth, and I ended up changing 4 of them to be that you rolled off per turn, because I went through just modified it all at the end because it was like just whatever, I guess, like I'm the one that's responsible for it, I guess, in the end, like who basically takes the brunt of anybody's anger. And a lot of it was an experiment. I said, well, Age of Sigmar is meant to be played with the random turns, so I was going to do 3 and 3, but I said I'll give 4 to the random turns because that's how it's meant to be played, and then I'll give 2 to fixed turns, and I'll just see what happens, right? And nobody came up to me and raged about the double turn, and actually quite a few people, my brother included, who was the ringer day 2, he ended up saying, like, you need, as you said, John, you need the double turn, you just have to plan for it. You know, the
Yeah.
guys that are going to complain about the double turn are the guys that just shoot their whole army forward. And like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like when, I haven't played too many games because I was too busy running this event, but I don't want to go first half the time unless you have a ton of archers or a ton of artillery. I don't want to go first against you. I want to go second, put my stuff in woods, so you can't really hurt me, and then I want you to come at me, and then I want a 50% chance at a double turn.
Oh yeah,
That's
I mean
the
this
thing, right? You
it's a
get first
huge
turn, or you
difference.
get a 50% chance at a double turn.
Oh yeah, I mean the big thing is because before you'd always want to go first in 8th edition. Now it's a huge advantage to go second for a number of reasons. Well, first of all, the ranges are so much shorter overall in Age of Sigmar. I found for a lot of missile weapons.
Yep.
Because bows are what 20.
Yeah.
And I think, whereas opposed like longbows were 30 before. And so usually, most of the time, if you let the person go first, what are they going to do? They're going to shuffle forward and maybe shoot 1 or 2 really long-range war machines. It's almost like you don't want to go first anymore. I can't think of a lot of scenarios where you do.
Well, I kind of do because it's like, if you go first and the guy does nothing, or you can do nothing to him, but he can do nothing to you, then you can almost like kind of try to hope that he gets the double turn, comes aggressive, and if you're planning for it, you can then do like a counter charge. Like you can almost sit way passive back and then counter him when he's aggressive, and you know that you got that one key turn to basically punch through. That's how like me and my brother have been talking about that a lot. We've been like, it's like it's a tough choice now. I feel like I think most of the time you want to go second, as you said, but there is like if I can go first and get my archers up and just get one of your characters or one of your chariots, it's actually kind of really beneficial too, right?
Oh yeah.
So here's a question for you, John. Since we have a captive audience with you, as someone who's played a bunch of games and was in the tournament for it, one of the ideas we're toying around with, and viewers as well, let us know your thoughts on this, is moving far more towards objective play being the primary rather than just who killed more stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll be up for that. I don't know. I got a soft spot for victory points, battle points. I'm just always in the mind of when I play a war game. I just want to kill the opponent. I guess.
Yeah. The problem I see though is you see a lot of the turtlers, and so I'm not saying like you were kind of guilty, and that there's nothing wrong with that, but like even Steve, it's like they turtled, and it was like, well, because it's pure battle points for the primary, like I'm sure maybe like killing wounds should be like it should be in there for sure, maybe tertiary.
Yeah, it'll be like a secondary or tertiary.
Or secondary maybe even.
Yeah.
But like the primary, if it's objectives, then the guy that takes like 6 war machines and sits in the back, he's not winning the primary. He might win secondary and tertiary, no problem. But at least it's like, well, you're not winning the primary, so you're not going to win the event, so it might force him to take more mobile options to move forward.
Yeah, and the other part of that is in all of the playtesting we did, and by all I quite literally mean every single game that we played of this, the game turned into a giant cluster of models in the middle of the board all fighting each other for 4 turns, and then somebody won.
But it's getting less like that just through volume of play. So like when 8th edition first came out, it was like all my units in the middle of the board fighting, like my 3 units on your 3 units. Whereas I feel like Age of Sigmar is now turning into a lot of like MSU. I'm just speaking from the way that my brother and I are designing lists right now. Is we're moving more towards, and we're still very new, like anybody else, but we're moving more towards MSU, get around, get the abilities in, and from what I'm listening to overseas is that's a big thing right now. Is you have one Death Star maybe, and then a bunch of little stuff. So I'm kind of thinking maybe that's just because the way we've been playing initially is like run in the middle, but like with time, eventually it'll be like, well, I have this bait unit in the middle, and then the rest of me is going around, and
yeah, I think the objective style stuff covers that twofold, and that's the reason I don't want to dwell on this for too long. It's not the whole point of this, but it's food for thought. Is it really does force that sort of MSU approach? It's the same thing with 40k. Do you sit there with your gun line and just play kill points or purge the alien every time, or do you force people to design their list to actually have to be mobile and move around on the board and hold different areas? So you can't, as you said with the dwarves, you can't sit at the back with 3 flame cannons and double everyone else's victory points at the end of the tournament.
For sure.
I think too the new rules, just the way like all the units move and stuff, it really lends itself a lot better to adding in objective play, sort of similar to the way 40k is. Whereas before, it's hard to do that with like your giant blocks.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess we'll hand it over to John. So why don't you tell us what was in your army, why you brought it, and then we'll go from there.
All right. So my list was centered around the Wanderer list, which is the battle scroll for the Wood Elves. Those I've got a soft spot for the Wood Elves.
Yep.
And so I've been playing them for a number of years. So going through just playing the games, the biggest part of my list was, first of all, we were playing, 125 wounds?
Yep.
So I had 40 wounds of Eternal Guard with Glade Shields. Then I had about 29 Glade Guard. Then I had a Tree Man Ancient. And a bunch of mages, because I think we couldn't double up on hero choices, so I took as many mages as I could.
Yep.
And beyond that, geez, I'm starting. Oh yeah, a big unit of Wild Riders. And one of the characters I had was the Shadow Dancer, who had a pretty nifty spell that actually helped me in a bunch of my games.
What did that spell do?
It's a spell they had. Geez, I can't remember the name of it now. I think it's like Steed of Shadows. But you target a unit, and that unit doubles its movement and gains the fly roll to your next turn.
That's horrendous. That's awesome,
Wow.
actually.
Flying Wild Riders.
Yeah, so I had Flying Wild Riders, Flying Treemen, you name it. It was great.
Gross.
So that really helped me overall. So, but the big strategy I had there is the Eternal Guard. They only have they're only rocking a 5-up armor save. However, there's that's the one thing we've quickly discovered in Age of Sigmar. Armor saves are pretty malleable. It's easy to get that armor save up to a 2-up without a lot of effort.
I agree.
So, Eternal Guard, if you put them in cover, right there you get a +1 to your armor save. So cover's huge in Age of Sigmar. Then the other thing is the Wood Elf list allows you to take up to 3 Sylvaneth Wildwoods. So in every game I only took 2 Sylvaneth Wildwoods, but I had cover with me every game, so I was able to largely deploy the Eternal Guard in the woods. So right off the bat, they have +1 to their armor save.
Okay.
And then if Eternal Guard have an ability, if they don't move, they get +1 to their armor save because they basically readied their spears.
Sweet. That's actually gross. All of a sudden, so now you're down to 3+.
I'm at a 3+, and then I got 4 wizards in the background, so I just need to get 1 Mystic Shield on them. All of a sudden, I have Eternal Guard with the 2+ armor save, who re-roll 1s and 2s for failed armor saves. So I basically got Chaos Disc Lord Eternal Guard for this tournament.
40 of them, 40 wounds worth.
Yeah,
You're a bad man, John.
I'm a horrible man. So basically, every game in this tournament, I basically made a string of Eternal Guard. And I put several pictures of this on Twitter, and you could just see that I would have a string about 2 feet long of Eternal Guard, and I have all my shooting behind them. People would just plow into Eternal Guard, whatever was ogre man-eaters, dwarf hammers, everything, even stuff that was rending. Most combat units that have rending are only Ren 1. But if my Eternal Guard are at a 2-up in the woods, I'm basically 3-up re-rollable against the stuff that's Ren 1.
That's crazy. That's actually like 6. You just kind of like sat there because I saw a lot of your games. You're like sitting in the corner with your Eternal Guard, and then you just like shot over top of people's heads and killed stuff. Or
sure, we did a bit of that. But then when people would throw stuff at the Eternal Guard, I would also have the Truman Ancient go to where the combat's happening. There's nothing preventing you from having the Truman Ancient join the combat behind the Eternal Guard.
Yeah, within 3 inches, right?
Yeah, 2 or 3 inches for their sweeping blows. So you can have them out of range of the stuff they're attacking, who can't attack them, and the Eternal Guard just holding the line.
That sounds awesome.
Cool, actually.
So, is there any games that really stuck out in your head as like amazing or memorable?
Well, my worst game is actually probably the most memorable. That was my first game against Steve.
Yeah, the artillery gunline of death. What was it? 3 flame cannons, 2 stone throwers, Was that it for artillery? But it was gross, right?
Was gross. And there's a lot of synergies in the dwarf list if you look through it. There's a lot of abilities where I think Longbeards allow you to use 2 command abilities, or an additional command ability for every Longbeard unit you have.
Yeah.
So he had all these little synergies where I reroll this, or reroll that. It was just a total reroll-a-thon, and those war machines are pretty nasty. So I thought I had a chance against them because my idea was to take out the war machines. But what I'm really finding in this game is that war machines are a lot more durable than they were in 8th edition.
Oh, for sure. They have way more wounds. They're tougher, and like you charge them in combat, and the guy can just say, "Okay, you're wounding the war machine, right?"
Yeah.
And he shoots next turn. Well, then in Steve's case, he would heal the war machine right back up to full, and then shoot you.
Yeah, essentially. After just the big difference. So, charging 10 Wild Riders at a war machine, you'd think that it has a chance to destroy the war machine?
Well, it should. You must have rolled like crap, though.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, you got the war machine has 4 wounds and it has the crew members, and the Wild Riders simply aren't as good as they were in 8th edition. But still, when you get to war machines are just very resilient. I couldn't pop the war machines. I had a pretty I thought sneaky strategy. That was the table where you had the big, huge pyramid in the middle of the table.
Yeah.
So I had the Wild Riders right behind the pyramid. Then I used the Steed of Shadow spell to make my flying Wild Riders get into his backfield right next to his war machines.
Mm-hmm. It should have been game over, right? But
I was hoping, but I just couldn't get it. But the thing is, then if you don't get the double turn there, and then the war machines just turn around, especially those flame cannons. Hello, no more Wild Riders.
Yep.
Oh, so he got the double turn and then just nuked him.
Oh yeah, so it was interesting. I think I made the game a little bit more interesting. I did get 20 0'd, but I got a few points. But that was definitely my worth showing there.
Okay, crazy. So I guess we'll move on to the results. Is that next, or the armies? What do you want to talk about, Logan?
Let's talk about the armies. And I think the reason I want to do this is, John, you brought up a really interesting point. Is that things like Wild Riders, you expect them to be really good based on how great they were in 8th edition, and Age of Sigmar has brought a huge shift in what's good now.
Yeah.
And it's not the stuff you'd think is like you think flame cannons are good. Yes, they are obviously, but
they weren't good in 8th, man. So
yeah, exactly. There's a lot of really weird things that are suddenly amazing when you pair them with stuff. Like for Undead, depending on who you're playing, Vargulfs are outstanding. You buff them with one other spell, they hit on 2s, they wound on 2s, they have rend, and they do 2 to 3 wounds a swing. They're nuts. And in 8th edition, I saw one ever out of hundreds of games. I saw one Vargulf ever. And now, if you aren't running a max size unit of them, you seem to have trouble. Or at least if you're playing that style.
Oh, there's a lot of other good things in that Undead book.
Oh, there's tons of great stuff. I mean, some things are still good. Like Crypt Horrors are still good. Nagash is still amazing. Terrorgeists are okay, I suppose. But it's just been really interesting to see because for me, like I play Chaos and I play Undead, and I had a pretty good Chaos list, I'd like to think. I mean, I did relatively well at tournaments and in Canadian rankings anyway. And my army is trash now. Like, there is no reason to take any model I own in Age of Sigmar. It's
they're not trash. Like, I like to think
of
Age of Sigmar.
My army is trash.
I know yours, but even them, some of those models are good with others. Whatever. I like to think of Age of Sigmar as like the Canadian wealth distribution now. So they redid all the books, and so like 60% is like right in the middle.
Yeah.
Damn good average. 20% shit. 20% busted and awesome. And I think that's I think that this is maybe the most balanced that the entire game's ever been. But in a weird way, like not in a good way, but like
time.
It's going to take time for sure, but I just like so many when you look at the GW store and you go through like Dark Elves, you want to play Dark Elves. There is more acceptable choices in the Dark Elf range now than there was before. When you look in the Dwarves, there's more acceptable choices. Like, you will take more of the units. And hands down, every faction, I feel the same way. I look at them and I go, I will take more. Like, there's more things that I would take.
Yep.
Like, I would actually take, what are the dudes, the Dark Elf dudes with swords and shields, right? Swords and board. I would take them now. I would also take spearmen. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like I just feel like everything's kind of good in its own way. But there are obviously shitty choices. But
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how things evolve on it. I mean, if people stick with it, the meta's going to go really interesting places over the next few months. I have no doubt at all. There was something I was going to say, but I totally forgot what it was.
that's okay.
Yeah, but no, I think the other big thing about the army just comp in general, of course, we split it into the four not factions, but whatever they're called. So you have like undeath,
Those are
chaos,
factions.
destruction, whatever it is. Yeah, so we split it up into that. I don't think anybody really took too much advantage of that, except for some of the chaos players.
But you can't take advantage of that. Like, I look at my Bretonnian army and it's like, sweet, I can take all these Dark Elf stuff, my Bretonnians.
But there's no reason to, right?
There's no reason to, because the
There's no
Bretonnians
synergies.
all work together, and all the Dark Elves work together, and
Yeah.
I think they've built in, by having factions, but they've built in the synergies within their own books, right? Like why would you take Malekith randomly? Like, why would you take Nagash randomly? You wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, Nagash
Especially-
was a bad example, but
Yeah, Nagash you would, but in our comp not so much. But yeah, it's cool that the options are there. But yeah, so let's talk about the armies overall. What do we have? We had 3 Wood Elf players.
that was the weird part, is that Wood Elves made up 30% of the tournament. We had 1 Demon player who ended up dropping off after day 1 and got replaced with the Ringer player who was Dark Elves. We had an Ogre player. We had a Dwarf player. We had a Chaos Mortals, I guess you would say,
Yep.
army. We had an Orc and Goblin army. We had... Oh... What did... what's his name play?
EJ?
No, BJ was the
He was
Orcs.
Right.
He sold his Ultramarine army.
Skaven. Paul was playing Skaven.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. Paul Nelson was playing Skaven, and that was about it, right?
Yeah, I think that was everyone. So what did that break down into for results, though? That's the interesting thing here.
Okay, so the results basically showed. First place was Steve Toonstra overall, which was Dwarves. Second place overall was Wood Elves, which was Best General, which was John. Congratulations.
Yay!
Third place was Jocelyn Cluche, and he was second overall, and he was Ogres. Fourth was Jason Hutchinson, and he was Beastman.
Yep.
With some Chaos Warriors.
With some Chaos Warriors. Fourth was Paul Nelson, and he had his Skaven. Fifth was Demons of Frank, which is funny because he only played 4 games out of 6, and he got 5th place. Daniel with his Wood Elves was next, and then it was Thomas. Which
Wood
one did
Elves.
Thomas have? Wood
Yeah,
Elves?
Yeah, he had the other Wood Elves.
Then BJ with his Orcs, and then MJ with his Chaos, and then of course after MJ was the Ringer with Dark Elves, who only played 2 games.
Yeah. So we've been talking about flame cannons, most notably with this Steve guy. So what was the point spread between first and second place?
In Battle Raw, it
Battle,
was 22 points, which
And-
is a full game. So if Steve would have got 0, it was over 22. So if Steve got 0 in his last game, because he wasn't playing the second place, who was John, then Steve would have still got first place, and whoever played him probably would have got second.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see, because the rest of the results, if I remember correctly, there was a pretty reasonable spread. It was like 78 down to I think last place was relatively low, but
22.
there was a pretty even distribution from there on though. But
Yeah, there's a lot of people in high 30s, low 40s.
yeah, but at the end of day
a couple
one,
in 60s.
at the end of day one, I remember Steve's Dwarves. He was double the battle points of the second place person at the end of day one. Yeah, so it's going to be. I'm really excited to see what people do to try to get around that, and hopefully our comp can try to address some of that as well. Because I mean, you have to play within the confines of whatever the comp system is, so we're trying to keep that into account as well. But it's going to be cool to see how lists evolve.
Yeah,
Do you
and one
think?
bit-
Do you guys
sorry.
think that was sorry? Do you guys think that was a problem with the comp? Like, should we over penalize more war machines, so just limit the amount people can take, or do you think what he did was reasonable and he just found the good combo?
What do you think, John? Let's turn that over to you.
I don't know. I'm almost kind of worried of comp something based on one game.
Yep.
So I think overall, I think there's ways around it. You just gotta, I think, give the meta some time. I think overall, I mean, 6 war machines is fine. Someone really wants to go that. Did we count it as the wounds of the machine count for the wounds for the list?
Yes.
They all do. The machine and the crew. So this is one thing that came up a lot during the tournament, is the machine and the crew form one unit.
Yep.
So the crew can't go and join other war machines. They can move away from it, though, because they can literally move away. But you basically take the total wounds of the crew and the machine. They fight as any other unit in the entire game. So when you shoot the war machine, you have to go, okay, I'm going to take the first wound on one crew, or I'm going to take it on the war machine. Now, if you take it on the war machine, you have to continue to take it on the war machine until the war machine is dead. So what Steve was doing is he would take him on the war machine, they'd get down to like 1 wound, and then he'd heal them back up.
Gross.
But
yeah, it was a pretty good setup he had there.
we actually did comp it. We went to 0 to 2 of the same war machine. Because even my brother, he played with 3 bolt throwers as the ringer, and so we were doing some experiments, him and I, with some of the Dark Elf stuff he took, and he did pants one guy, and then I think he did a minor win against another guy, and he basically, the one game, he said, I threw away my cav, because I didn't really know what his other stuff did, like I didn't know what a mangler did, and he threw away his cav bus, and he said, and then I just relied on my bolt throwers to kill the rest of his army while he came at me after fighting my cav. So we kind of came to the agreement that it should be limited.
Yeah, and the interesting thing to note is because we are doing it as the factions, 0 to 2 war machines sounds pretty limited, but for elves, for example, that still means you have 4 bolt throwers. You just take 2 high elf bolt throwers,
And
2 dark elf
cannons
ones,
and stuff like
and
that.
cannons.
Like you could take 2 flame cannons, 2 stone throwers, 2 elf bolt throwers, 2 other elf bolt throwers, like...
And then dwarves are in there as well. You can take some flame cannons with it, and even for chaos, you can have 2 hell cannons, 2 skull cannons, and then chaos orbs if you're so inclined.
Like, I almost feel like... I just looked at it and I just felt like Steve, to be fair, too, he plays Age of Sigmar at GW. So he lives... Like, I want to say, I think he's won something like at least over 10 to 15 games with that army prior to.
Yeah.
Like, he told me he plays all the time and his dwarves
It's only
are
50 games.
Is that what it is, 50?
He said he's played 50 games with that list.
Yeah,
Jesus.
he came more prepared than anyone else,
Yeah.
and he exploited and tweaked his list. So that's why I was saying I'm kind of reluctant, because you talk to the other players, you're like, yeah, I've played like 5 games, and I kind of took what I had painted. The only other guy that actually truly built a list to win was Frank, and he had to leave. And maybe Frank would have won had he not left, right? Because he was up in the running.
He would have been in contention for sure. He had a pretty good list. Yeah, and yeah, props to Steve. I mean, he really did put in the work. So as you said, John, it's not too hot to jump on the nerfing bandwagon. I think 0 to 2 is still totally reasonable, given the fact that you can still spam the hell out of war machines if you want to with that, because of how the factions are set up.
And then that came up to this came up as well, which I should say. I know we want to move on, but somebody mentioned maybe we should just go 0 to 2 of War Scrolls instead of 0 to 3, and then we could drop all the other restrictions on, like, no duplicate characters. Oh, whatever, you can take a duplicate character. I guess that sucks for the guy that takes 2 Nagashes, but it's comp pretty hard. So you shouldn't be able to do it because of the other restrictions that we have in place. But you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, well, if we just said all War Scrolls are 0 to 2, we no longer have to comp War Machines. We no longer have to comp this and that, and it changes everything, right? So
yeah. So we're playing around with a few ideas for sure.
Cool. So I guess we're going to... That's it for Age of Sigmar then, right?
Yeah, and if anybody does have feedback on the comp system, we've been pushing it out on Twitter and various forums. Do let us know. Email us. Leave comments on the YouTube video for this. Sign up on the CanHammer forums at it's linked to from CanHammer.com.
Yeah, if you go to CanHammer.com, which I know it's the easiest one to go to, all the 1+ stuff's linked from there. All of the Age of Sigmar stuff's linked from there, from the forum. You can go to anything you want to do from there. I kind of put tabs for everybody. So that's cool. So I guess that's it for Age of Sigmar. So I guess we'll say goodbye, John. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Do you have any last thoughts? What do you think of the stream? Or
it's a pretty neat little system here.
Cool. So we'll let you go and have a good night, buddy.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay, so I guess with that, that kind of concludes our show, but we'll do our final thoughts. So we'll start with you, Andrew. What's your final thoughts on Capital City? How do you think it went?
Well, from like an organization standpoint, I think it was great. I think we were super spoiled with that venue, and hopefully we'll be able to get it, next year. From what I can tell, and I was sort of busy doing the paint judging and working the computer a bit, everyone did seem to have a good time. And so hopefully I'm right and people will come back next year and we'll be able to grow.
Yeah, that's the thing about next year, right? Like, we don't know what we're going to do. We want to add more events. We're kind of changing the focus of the event to be a 40K GT, but I don't want to get rid of, like, why not just run an Age of Sigmar GT, and why not let the War Machine guys run a GT and the Flames of War guys? So I think we have a lot that we have to think about and move on with. So I'll hand it to you, Logan. What's your final thoughts, or what do you think, or anything left to say?
Yeah, I had an absolute blast at the event. It was a lot of fun to work with you guys on the scenarios and comp and everything going into it. And I had a ton of fun. It was great to chat with people leading up to it. We had folks come in from all over the place to this event. We picked up some folks purely because it was ITC. We picked up folks because they heard about it through CanHammer or our tournaments, our videos, what have you. It was just really cool to see all of that work together into one big thing and really repeat the success of the event last year and build upon that as well. So I'm very much looking forward to next year's event.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess I am as well. So if you like the show, send us an email at canhammer.podcast@gmail.com. Definitely mosey on over to the One Plus Armor YouTube channel and check out the videos. It should be pretty cool. They do Twitch battle reports, infrequent, but they do them. You guys don't have a schedule for that yet, do you?
No, it's really whenever we can. We've all got pretty crazy schedules, unfortunately.
Yeah. Our work schedules sort of clash with each other, so it's basically whenever we have time we do it.
Yeah, so maybe we'll have to work on doing some more Twitch stuff because it is really cool. You go to canhammer.com, you can link to everything that we talked about and all that stuff. CapitalCBloodbath.com as well will give you the results and any other information that you need. And I guess with that, I guess we have no other plugging to do. We already gave our Twitter handles, so have a good one, guys.
Thanks for joining.
You're not going to say bye, Andrew?
Bye, Andrew.
Knew it.
Okay, I'm just gonna save AOS and then we're good. Anything you guys want me to edit out, or anything that you want me to make a note of now to go back through and fix, or?
No, that's cool. Just as long as we got links to everything. And to anybody in the chat,
what do you mean links to everything? What do you
just
want?
Like the comp pack, the tournament stuff, the results, all that stuff.
So ITC comp.
The tournaments we plugged.
Tourney pack. Tourney's plugged. Okay. Yeah, I'm obviously not gonna stay up till midnight on a Sunday and edit this, but.
Oh yeah, just stuffing it down. And to everybody in the chat here, we've got a couple minutes here before we got to call it quits. If you have any questions, let us know. We're happy to do a quick Q&A, whether it's about Bloodbath or Age of Sigmar or 40K or.
Yeah, sorry, I skipped over that in the show notes because I was like, oh, there's 2 people in it, and I think I'm one of them. But
and I'm one of them.
Yeah, no, we got a couple people in there.
Is there?
Yep.
I don't know.
We had. They may have left. Who knows?
Yep. We have a dude named Grim Reaper 3.
It's Grim Reaper with a 3 for an E.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still there. The viewer thing doesn't usually work too well, but.
Okay.
Anyway.
That's the thing, is I think a lot of people left, and then because it is Sunday at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, people are probably getting ready for work.
All right, well, we'll call it there then, I guess. If anybody is in the chat or you're watching this later on YouTube, leave something in the comments and we'll definitely respond.